Hey everyone, I want to just acknowledge this beautiful backdrop behind me. I felt like sitting outside today and recording. There'll be background noise, but hopefully that won't detract from the messaging. I wanted to talk today about a thing I refer to often called emotional fitness, emotional intelligence. What is it? How does it relate to back pain and how do we learn it? What are the skills? It's a huge deal when it comes to back pain because let's face it, when you're in pain, there's emotions attached to the pain. There's not many people that can be in pain and not have some emotional reaction to being in pain. So, knowing how to be with your emotions when you're in pain is one aspect, but I would argue knowing how to be with your emotions all the time is what prevents pain but also what rapidly helps your body heal dysfunction. Emotions, what are they? They're parts of being human. Unless you're a robot, you're going to have emotions in this time-space reality, and they're welcome. How do I perceive them? I perceive them as feedback. I perceive them as an opportunity to get to know myself better. I become aware of when I react. I feel now the reactions in my body. And when I do, I have an inkling of how I'm perceiving something. If I'm loving it, if it's bringing me joy, peace, tranquility, harmony, then I'm all in. Great, because I want to experience more of those emotions. When it's the opposite, when there's anxiety, stress, fear, frustration, overwhelm, I see it as feedback that something I'm doing, something I'm being, something I'm thinking could be up leveled. I'll talk to you about an experience I had yesterday. It was very stressful. I haven't had a very stressful experience in a while. I felt such contraction of my abdomen that I became very interested in my reaction. There were other people involved. It wasn't traumatic. It was an everyday experience of a dog escaping. There was a bit more to it, but it wasn't life-threatening. But my reaction was intense. And in the moment when it all went down, I realized I was really reacting, but I had things I needed to do and be in that moment, prior commitments. I was with someone, I had an employment hat on. I had to be professional, I had to carry on, I had to get the job done. When I finished the work, the what I was required to be in that moment, I went into a quiet, dark room and I sat. There was a part of me that said, just go for a run. That'll move it. You'll be okay. And it probably would have. But the intensity was so intense. I thought, no, there's more here. There's a lot here I need to unpack. So I created the dark space. Why dark? Because I didn't want to be distracted visually. I didn't want noise. I want a locked room. So I knew I wasn't going to be interrupted. Phone off, me. I came into me. Shut down the vision, go inside. I found a comfortable chair. I started breathing. So I went internally, basically. I went inside to experience all that was going on the inside. And I was immediately drawn to my solar plexus stomach. It was in knots, it was gripping. I was having a hard time even releasing my diaphragm and releasing my abdomen to get some breath in there. So I was really tangled. I had really, whatever had gone on had grabbed me and I was locked in it. And I was aware, but I was, you know, I couldn't just say, just relax, it'll be okay. It wasn't working. It wasn't being okay. I was feeling it. So as I sat there being very curious about the intensity, I was able over time was about a 40-minute process to realize that I had many strong emotions piled on top of each other. There was anger, there was worry, there was fear, there was compassion in there, but it was all tangled up into this hot mess of many emotions. Rather than one or two, there was a lot. It was like this swirling pool of many colors spinning in my abdomen. And as I pieced each one apart, I went, I'm feeling that because this incident had this impact on this person, and I feel compassion for them. I also feel worry for them. I also feel anger towards this person because of their mistake. There was just so much. And with each breath, with each process, with each unpacking, with each curiosity about why I chose to judge that, label that, I was able to make peace with the situation. When I finally got to the place of this event occurred because it did, and I trust it occurred because all involved had things to learn and grow from this experience, including myself, then I was able to let go. I'm not responsible for how someone reacts to something. That's them. I tend to be a quite empathic person, and it's my perpetual struggle to not get tangled up in other people's emotions. I'm sure many of you can resonate because I feel like many people who experience back pain experience strong emotions. Half the time, those emotions aren't even theirs. But knowing what to do with it is really critical because if we don't tend to our emotional state frequently, we are carrying all of those emotions, and all of those emotions equate to biochemistry. Stress is cortisol. Cortisol feeds inflammation. So I kind of always say to patients, you can take anti-inflammatories to stop the cortisol, to treat the inflammation, or you can treat the cortisol with an emotional processing technique so that your body shuts it down and stops producing it. Then you don't need the anti-inflammatories. Our bodies are perfect in how they are. And it's just, I guess, learning the navigation, learning the tools and developing the skills that help us be in this amazing emotive body and not just accept that we have no power to work with what we experience is the messaging. So why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because facts are when you get stressed, you get cortisol. When you get cortisol, you get inflammation. That inflammation circulates through your blood flow and it's going to land in your most vulnerable tissue, usually in the injured spaces. You get inflammation where you are most vulnerable, where you have any sniff of an old injury, boom, that's where it goes. Cortisol can be dampened if you switch into the parasympathetic nervous system quickly. If you don't switch into the parasympathetic nervous system and you stay in a mental space that's ruminating and you keep triggering the emotional response of fear, stress, anxiety, whatever it might be, then your body keeps reacting and you keep pumping out the chemicals that land in your tissues as inflammation. We know that something as simple as box breathing, which is where you inhale for a count, hold for a count, exhale for a count, pause for a count, 3 or 4 minutes of box breathing is enough to turn off your sympathetic nervous state and put you back in the parasympathetic. Basically, your cortisol does not need to keep circulating. Usually, if untreated, if left rampant, a stressful event like I experience will have me in a high cortisol state for 24, 48 hours before it dampens. If I tend to my emotions, if I can reframe and understand that this experience had growth in it for all involved, if that makes me feel peaceful about the experience, and if I can then do some breath work that calms me and releases and allows all these motions to move through, then my cortisol is dampened within a few minutes. I'm back in parasympathetic and I'm moving freely in the world I'm not carrying that event forward for the next 2, 3, 5, 6 days. It's important stuff and it directly affects our health. But no one teaches us this stuff. We have been taught that emotions are just random and that they're there to stay and that, you know, just got to suck it up, that we have no control over it. I do think we have control. I think they're very valuable. I don't want to distract from them. I don't want to numb them. And I don't want to simply push through them because they don't go anywhere. Energy in motion is emotion. It's energy in motion, and it's at the cellular level. Each emotion has a density or a frequency. Love has a cellular oscillation of about 520 hertz. Fear, guilt, anxiety, worry, they're all about 30, 40 hertz. So your cells moving in that energy of density are not functioning at the capacity they have that when they're oscillating at a higher frequency in love, peace, harmony. That affects all your intracellular metabolism. Everything that goes on at a cellular level is affected by the energy that moves through your body. This is not woo. We have science. It's validated. So let's take what we know and start using it rather than having a pill to kind of mop up the end result. Let's get out ahead of it and understand these emotions and work with them. So I invite you, if you're feeling sitting there right now in back pain, start right now. Start becoming curious about what you're feeling right now. Just wherever you are, just shut your eyes. Breathe. I'm not going to tell you how, just breathe. See if you can feel into your body. What helps is to notice where there's contact. I'm sitting in a chair right now. I can feel the back of the chair supporting my spine. I can feel where my butt is resting on the chair. I can feel my feet on the earth. And if I simply become aware of that contact and I feel safe because that contact is making me feel supported, then I can drop. I can drop into my body, which brings me out of my head, which stops the rumination, which stops all the bullshit thinking, all the stories that are just fucking stories. They're not even real. They're just habits, thought habits, and we've all have them. I drop into my body. I start to become aware of what am I feeling? What am I actually feeling? I remember the first few times I did this, I I had nothing. I couldn't even feel my body. I was so mental, so intellectual, so analytical. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a overthinker. I've got better in the last few years. I've got a lot better. I've got to the point now where I can actually distinguish layers of emotions. I can feel them in different parts of my body. I can tune into the intensity, the depth, the variance. I can talk directly to the emotions. I can figure out what part of me. I have many parts. I've got to know them. I know why one part is reacting like this and why one part's reacting like that. I'm not saying you have to be at that level. You just need to know that your emotions are useful, that they matter, that they provide feedback, and that if they're not shifting, you need to get really curious about why. And it takes courage to do emotional work. It really does. The one thing that made me more comfortable getting emotionally connected was the idea that any emotion, no matter how powerful, has a 90-second lifetime. Meaning, if you tune into it, if you dive into it, if you face it, if you be with it, the intensity of it has got a 90-second move through. Meaning, you might fully feel it, but it can't sustain it. It's like you open up the pressure valve, all the water gushes out, and it can gush, but it's only got 90 seconds in it. I don't know whoever figured that out, but for me, it was a very reassuring thought because I thought, all right, no matter what I'm going to feel, it's only going to last 90 seconds. I can be in hell for 90 seconds. I can do anything for 90 seconds. So let's bring it on. Let's bring on whatever I've shoved down there so deep for so long that I don't want to face. Let's invite it to the surface and be curious about it. Caveat on that, I do think trauma is different. I do think if you have trauma in your background that you know is of significance, that doing somatic experiencing, we call this, it's another frame for getting to know your emotional responses, can be overwhelming to the point where it is so nice to have someone beside you. It is so nice to have strategies for if you do become overwhelmed, that you practice ahead of time. All of that builds you into a space where you can feel safe in your nervous system, experiencing things that may feel just like they're too much. And the very definition of trauma is in the moment of whatever's experiencing, the emotional experience is just too overwhelming for your nervous system to deal with. So it parks it somewhere else so that you can function, so that you can get away, so that you can survive. It basically parks those emotions somewhere. You become numb, you dissociate so that you can actually exist. After that point, those parts of you that have dissociated can stay dissociated for many, many years. They usually get triggered by sounds, noises. Your nervous system never forgets, but it has a beautiful way of holding it without disabling you. But it does, it's there. It's always there. It's always there until it's transmuted with love. And I guess that's what the whole psychedelic experience is about. I'll do another video on that later. But for now, let's keep it simple. Get to know your emotional states. Spend time sitting with yourself without any distraction and becoming curious about your internal environment, not about your pain, not about your physical pain, but about your emotional state. Just get to know it. Try and develop an arsenal of words that's more than I'm sad or I'm angry. Try and try and add a few more flavors in there. Maybe get to know what guilt feels like. I'm really good at frustration. I can always feel frustration. I'm getting better, but it's my little go-to. Emotions are addictive. Our body gets used to certain blends of adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol, and it has a little cocktail, a little chemical cocktail that we're all addicted to in our own specific way. Might be adrenaline for adrenaline junkies. It might be cortisol for drama, dopamine. We all have our little addictions. So just get to know them and know that being emotionally fit is about being able to sit with them and not judge them, to be curious about them, to be curious about the messaging, and then to know to just have some healthy habits of understanding, not being fearful, and yeah, holding space for yourself is what it's all about. I hope this helped. I hope you can see the relevance for your back pain. And it's a huge part of my Bulletproof Backs methodology, equipping you with the skills to know how to be emotionally fit. I'm less interested in your physical fitness than I am your mental and emotional fitness because I know the power of them. I know the ripple effect down into your physical structure. So please let us know if that landed. Let me know where in your body it landed. Let me know what emotion it evoked. Drop it in the comments and yeah, like, subscribe, share. You know the drill. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks so much for your openness to learn. And thanks for being here. I genuinely hope that what I share is going to help you.